Okay, ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Wheatley, step right up here, young man. Thank you. And behind every good chief, you have to have a woman, and I know that she's a good one to have, so.
There you go. I'd like to introduce Danielle Davies. She's an EMT firefighter with the fire department. She scanned in all these pictures, made all these slides up, so it wouldn't be possible without her. When Sandy first called and asked me if we could do something like this, I had two thoughts, you know. One was, gosh, no. And the other, I said, well, that'd be a good opportunity, because it's something we've always wanted to do, and we never seem to find the time to do it. So this presentation was kind of our catalyst to try to get some of the stuff put together. And in doing so, we find that much like Linda said, we have a lot of holes as well. So I think this is going to be our impetus to keep this moving and rolling and try to gather in as much of this knowledge before it slips through our grasp. So that being said, the first thing we found, 49, starting to use these now, was an article that was written, and it was written rather well, so I'm not going to take credit for this, but it reads something like Jim Underwood. Jim Underwood, he used to write a lot of stuff about the town, and I thought he always did a pretty good job at it. So this may be his. Fires in the expanding communities have always been a constant source of apprehension. Over the years, there developed a serious need of firefighters and tools in which to work. When fire occurred in a village, able-bodied members were expected to help voluntarily with buckets and ladders and any material at hand. Usually 2 lines were formed with a good water dipper at one end and a good water flinger at the other. One line passed the loaded buckets and the other returned the empties to the source, which was usually inadequate to the need. Later, Fabius was equipped, as there were many other villages, with a machine known as a hand pumper. This was drawn by the hose with the hose cart to the scene of the fire amid ominous cries of fire and wild ringing of the church bells. Miss Sarah Comstock, assistant operator at the old telephone switchboard, lived close by the Methodist church and for years rang those bells. The pumper hose cart and other equipment was housed at the jail. The 2-story structure was stood at the corner of Main and Pettit Street. There was a single cell at the back constructed of 2x4s where unfortunate lawbreakers or unruly members of society could be locked up. We still have this hose pumper. We pull it in a lot of parades. It was refurbished. John, you can help me out with this, but John Thayer, back in the 70s, I believe. Back at the Centennial, we actually, it's got leather casings and leather packings in it. We actually got it working. We were pumping at the Centennial. So we're planning on pumping it again, but she still actually works when we take the time to put her together. When a new fire equipment was purchased, the prisoner cell was torn out to make more room. A group of civic-minded citizens organized a Fabius Fire Company to protect the village and buildings within 1 mile radius. Also the buildings of the members of the company regardless of the distance. 39 members were enrolled, and new officers were Edward Rowley, Chief, R.B. Jones, Captain, Sarah Comstock, Lieutenant, Dr. John Gosner, Secretary, and the directors were George Hall, Walter Knapp, Henry Ten Eyck, and the Constitution and bylaws were read. It was in 1924. The articles were accepted, and the dues were 25 cents per month. Also, it was voted that the meeting were to be held on the second Monday of each month at 8 p.m., unless that day should fall on a legal holiday, in which case they would end on the following night. April 14, 1924, a meeting of the Fabius Fire Company became incorporated. The fire company voted to purchase a 1924 Model T fire truck, which was a Ford. Committees appointed by the chief and Women's Auxiliary made plans for donations. The new chemical truck was to cost $2,400, and the money was raised by Community Affairs. May of 1924, it was decided to put electric lights in the firehouse. The village was to pay half of the bill. On June 1925, we had another election of officers. Chief E.H. Rowley, Assistant Chief Harold Hall, Captain R.B. Jones, Lieutenant William Farewell, Secretary Dr. John Gosner, and Treasurer William Virgil. On July 1925, the 1924 Model T fire truck arrived. A motion was made and seconded by Chief Rowley was to purchase 250 feet of hose for use in connection with the hydrants in the village. The village had hydrants when the canning factory was in operation. Wish I had them now. October 6, 1925, the Fabius Fire Company voted to join the County Fire Association. July 6, 1926, the annual meeting. The election of the officers was Chief Harold Hall, Assistant Chief Dr. John Gosner, Captain R.B. Jones, Lieutenant William Farewell, Secretary R.B. Jones, and Treasurer William Virgil. On October 21st, 1939, Basil Conway barn fire in Cusco Corners. 77-year-old man valiantly dared flames in an effort to save livestock. 16 of the 24 cows and 3 horses were burned to death as the fire razed 4 buildings on the Basil Conway farm near Cusco Corners. Loss was estimated at $15,000. Buildings were a tool shed, an ice house, a milk house. The fire was discovered about 11:30 p.m. by Charlie Bovey, 77. The heat was unbearable and made it difficult to reach the livestock. Fabius and Casanova fire departments responded to the alarm, but the buildings were already gone. Most of the farm machinery had been placed in the barn for the winter, along with the season's crop of 100 tons of hay. Determination of the origin of the flames was never found. $15,000 of loss was partly covered by insurance. In August of 1941, the Hamilton store burned down. So kind of before and during. May 25th, 1945, Harold Hall resigned as chief. He held that position for 19 years, which is quite a long time for a chief. 1945, a new fire district was formed, which included both the east and the west sections of the town. The district was laid out by Robert Nash, who was fire chief from 1945 to 1949. It was during his tenure that the 1945 Ford fire truck was delivered. The money was raised in part from a country western show held on Academy Street. The show was headlined by Patsy Montana from Nashville, Tennessee. Commissioners were appointed by the town and village boards to carry on the fire company business. The Fabius Hotel was built in 1794 and burned down November 30th, 1945. The fire started when a kerosene stove in a hotel storeroom exploded. The hotel was owned by Mrs. J. Fields and was valued at $15,000. Engine 1 was built on a Ford chassis by Sanford. It featured a 500-gallon per minute triple combo pump and cost the department $6,142. Finally, in 1946, the fire equipment was moved to a 2-car garage on Smith Street. The garage still stands today. 1947, Tom Brennan joined the fire department. 1949, William Farewell became chief, who later resigned on November 14, 1950. A motion was made to appoint Thomas Brennan as chief due to the resignation of William Farewell. In 1955, the department purchased a new tanker. This truck was a 1955 GMC that held 1,600 gallons of water and cost the department $4,899. The truck was to be parked at the garage of Charles Jacoby at the lower end of town. This building also stands today. A motion was made and second that 2 radios be purchased for $1,000 for the Fabius and Aquilia trucks. In 1955, the Clarence Hathaway house had a house fire on Keeney Road. On April 13, 1958, Ridge Road house fire that took the lives of 2 children, Tom and Jerry Werner. Weiner. In 1958, it was voted to build a new fire station. This started the excavation. Many people helped. This is what the station still looks like today. So we changed the doors. April 10th, 1962, Clarence Harris was voted in as chief. Dutch, as he was called, started up a softball team for the Fabius Fire Department and served for 1 year. April 9th, 1963, Thomas Brennan was voted in chief for a second time. Thomas Brennan was born in Tully in 1916 and grew up on what was Labrador Road, currently Route 91, where Jim Burley now lives. Tom graduated from the Fabius Central School in 1936. He served in World War II in the Army Air Force. In the private sector, Tom was employed by Tuffy Trucking of Tully, Onondaga County Highway Department, Carrier Corp in Syracuse. He had been married to his wife, married for many, many years. They had 3 children, Patrick, Jimmy, and Margaret. Tom joined the Fabius Fire Department in July 1946. In 4 short years, he became chief of the department. He held the position from 1950 to 1962 and from 1963 to 1975, a total of 24 years. When Tom took the reins as chief of the fire department, it consisted of only a single 1945 pumper that was housed behind a local general store. During his tenure, Tom was instrumental in the design and building a new fire station, which is where the department is currently located. He also expanded the services of the department by bringing into service the department's first tanker as well as its first rescue. Tom had the early insight to see the value of two-way communication for the fire service and was instrumental in establishing the system in Onondaga County. As a testament to Tom's hard work, Fabius, one of the first fire departments to receive a radio. As if these tasks were not enough, coupled with the duties of providing for and raising a family, Tom found the time to serve as a deputy coordinator for Onondaga County from 1958 to 1983, a period of 25 years. One of Tom's most trying days, of which I'm sure he had many, had to be in the late 50s when the Fabius Central School caught on fire during construction. Amid the duties of a major school fire, Tom had to relinquish his command to rush his wife Mary to the hospital for the birth of their son Jimmy. This was the very same day saw the passing of Tom's mother. Tom represented the pinnacle of the volunteerism through his entire life. Tom was honored by the Southern Section Line Officers Association in 2003 and was awarded the prestigious Bill Barden Award. November 1964, vote was held to purchase the new fire truck. June 8, 1965, the new pumper was delivered from Sanford Fire Equipment. This was mounted on a 1965 Ford tilt cab chassis and featured a 750-gallon per minute pump. Total cost of this truck was $23,892. March 31st, 1966. Due to quick action of two Fabius men, little Richard Breed was saved from strangulation last Wednesday afternoon. Postmaster Roger Ryan happened to glance out the post office window and saw a child's body swinging in the wind. Unable to leave the post office unattended, Ryan was able to attract the attention of Charles Shea for help. Shea, a volunteer fireman, administered mouth-to-mouth resuscitation to relieve 3-year-old Richard, son of Mrs. Leon Breed. The child had been wearing a cowboy hat while playing in the tree, and the hat cord tangled around a branch and it choked the boy. It's the first time I ever heard that story when I was researching this. It's kind of nice. April 14, 1970, the Fabius Fire Department bought a rescue truck from Merritt, Long Island for $1,500. This rescue was a converted bread truck that had a generator. One of the first tools purchased for the truck was a porta-power. This hand pumper hydraulic tool had a spreader and a cutter to open car doors and cut steel. September 1971, an automobile accident in front of Jim Underwood's house on Route 91. Pete Lawney and another man were killed in the accident. Archie Dennis had a barn fire in the fall of 1971. 1972, Clifford House fire on Carter Road. Had a fatality there, John Scott Howell. The fall of 1973, the Van Sant barn on the corner of Vincent Corners and Paul Sutherland Road burned. A couple of pictures of that one. Notice the rubber coats and the aluminum hats, and what they are is the roll-up boots. Nowadays we wear bunker boots. These are just rubber boots, almost similar to fishing boots that they wore then, and rubber coats. These guys had nowhere near the protection that we have today, and it's amazing the stuff that they did back then. We have the Toggenburg Ski Fire, this was 1973 also. Compressor House Fire, right. April 1975, William D. Hart voted in as chief of the Fabius Fire Department. Bill D. Hart was born January 29, 1936 in Cortland and grew up on South Hill Road. Bill graduated from Cortland High School in 1953. Bill transferred from the Atisco Fire Department, where he served 10 years to Fabius in January 1964. He made his home on Route 80. In the private sector, Bill was a union mason employed by local 519 cement masons. He retired in 1998. He had been married to his wife Helen since 1957. They have 3 children, Karen, Brian, and Richard. Bill knew he'd be a firefighter when in 1948 he helped fight a Niagara's huge barn fire, which was saved by the Homer, Virgil, and McGraw fire departments. Bill was honored by the Southern Section Line Officers Association in 2005 and was awarded the prestigious Bill Barden Award. Bill also served as deputy coordinator with Onondaga County Emergency Management from 1990 until 1997. The Barden Award that they give out at the Southern Section is like the Firefighter of the Year, but it's for the Southern Section. Southern Section is a group of fire departments. The Southern Section of Onondaga County, it's 11 fire departments and 2 associate members. So when you do a really good job in your fire department, you get your Firefighter of the Year award. When you do a really good job throughout the whole section, they give you the Barden Award. And it's quite an honor because you're competing with, like I say, 11 other departments, and each department has 30 guys in it, so to win that award is great. And as far as the deputy coordinator's position, when you get the respect of all your men, they make you chief. When you get the respect of the other chiefs, they make you coordinator. So Billy is very successful in both of those. Unfortunately, the same night that Billy took over as chief, he had a surprise, and that's the same night his bowling alley fire. So that was quite an initiation. In 1975, the department took delivery of a 2,000-gallon tanker built on a Chevrolet chassis at a cost of $19,612. Later, the department members would install a new quick dump on the rear of the truck. There was a fire in 1961 on Tigerberg Road up in the woods behind what was then Bob Harris's house. March 3rd, 1977, the Southern Section Line Officers Association purchased a gas-powered purse tool for all the section departments to use. The cost of the tool was $6,000. This tool was kept at Lafayette Rescue as they had Route 81 and respond to all departments. In 1977, John Tilden had a house fire on Route 91. And January 1978, longtime past chief Harold Hall passed away. January 1979, the former Harry Lock House on the corner of Route 80 and Vincent Corners Road burns. It was a cold winter night and the house was fully involved in a total loss. It was believed it was caused by a wood stove and no one was home at the time. July 30th, 1979, the first call for the Leland Siemens barn fire, 604 Vincent Corners Road, came in at 9:20 a.m. When the fire department arrived on the scene, the barn was fully engulfed and the roof was coming in. 9 companies and 10 tankers were used to dump 135 loads of water from the Bardeen Hole, which was about 195 gallons of water. This caused the creek to drop about 6 inches. No cows were lost, and neighbors herded them to the Gaudette farm so they could be milked for that evening. September 1979, SCBAs were purchased from the Harold Hall Memorial donations. December 25th, 1980, Christmas morning, a house fire on Swift Road where the temperature was minus 35 degrees. 1982, a used rescue truck was purchased from the Hagerstown Fire Department located in Maryland. This international cargo star featured a cavalry design and a 16-foot walk-in crew area. The cost of the truck was $24,000 and it was paid for by donations to the Fabius Fire Department. December 24th, 1983, with a Leonard residence fire. Firefighting efforts were hampered by high winds and heavy snow. Mrs. Leonard lost her life in this fire. Later, it was determined that the cause of the fire was from a torch that was being used in the basement to thaw frozen pipes. It was the first fire that neighbor Chris Wool went to the house with his friend Dave Leach to lend a hand. When they got there, Don informed that the mother was still inside. Chris attempted to gain access through a window, but he was not a fireman. He did not have the proper gear. He was driven back by the smoke. At the end of the fire, Chief Bill D. Hart told Chris if he was going to fight fires, he better damn well join the fire department. So Chris did. Sounds just like something Billy would say. April 18, 1985, Bob Miller trailer fire at the corner of Bardeen Road and Key Road. Shortly after midnight, when firemen arrived at the scene, the trailer was fully involved. Mr. and Mrs. Miller were home at the time and managed to get out. The cause of the fire is thought to have been a wood stove. April 1985, Robert Slick elected chief of the fire department. Robert Slick was born in Fabius in 1939 and grew up on Slick Road. He made his home on Academy Street in the village. In the private sector, Bob was employed by Onondaga County, L.R. Chapman Trucking, and served 32 years as the highway superintendent for the town of Fabius. Been married to his wife Sherry since 1973. The biggest fire of Bob's tenure would be the Toggenburg Ski Center fire in 1987. One of the biggest surprises would be the Fabius High School. The school had installed a new fire alarm system. In the first few years, alarm activations were quite common. The school, due to its size and occupancy, had an automatic box alarm that would be toned out Aquilia, Poppy Hill, Delphi, and Tully. After many months of false activations, imagine everyone's surprise when Fabius Car 1 Bob called smoke showing. I was driving a rescue for Poppy Hill that night, and I know all of us were surprised and stepped it up quite a bit. Turned out to be the fire was contained to the electrical room, but caused extensive damage. July 15, 1985, there was a fatal auto accident at the corner of Route 80 and Pompey Center Road. And that actually is a Porsche. 1985, Doreen Zerbil Kogan designed the logo for the Fabius department. The logo we have on all our shirts and our jackets. September 23rd, 1985, the silo at Goodrich Farm started tipping, and that made news all over the place. That's a Tisco's ladder truck there helping out the Woodford brothers put cables on it to keep it from falling on the barn. This whole thing took several days and it was pretty successful, huh, Sonny?
Yes, it was.
July 1986, on a hot Saturday morning, the department was called to the Inks Farm on Highland Forest Road for a fire. A quick response and hard work saved the barn. June 27, 1987, Toggenburg Ski Center, Lodgeburg. It took 100 firefighters from 11 departments 3 hours to bring the blaze under control. February 1988, the Highland Forest tool shed burned down. If Dale's got any pictures of that we can get her. July 3rd, 1990, with the help of a state grant, the department received delivery of a new pumper. After several months of training, TP5 was put into service in September. This truck was a 1990 International chassis, featured a 1,000-gallon per minute pump with a 1,000-gallon water tank. It was built by E1 at a cost of $127,000. September 23rd, 1990, the darkest day for Fabius. The department was called to a motor vehicle accident on Westlake Road near Dam Road. It was reported that the car hit a tree and the driver was pinned in the vehicle. First to arrive was First Assistant Chief Paul K. Wood, followed by Second Assistant Chief Pete Slip. Upon their arrival, the chief immediately called the Sheriff's Air 1 helicopter to be used as a medevac. The vehicle came to rest down an embankment, and in the initial few minutes of the call, Paul had made several trips up and down the hill. When the rescue arrived, Paul went to the truck to inform his crew and collapsed. The rescue crew immediately started CPR. When Smith ambulance arrived, Paul was loaded in the ambulance and transported to the hospital. Despite all efforts, Paul was pronounced dead at the hospital. This day, Paul has been Fabius' only line-of-duty death. His name appears on the Fireman's Memorial in downtown Syracuse, as well as the National Fire Academy in Emmitsburg, Maryland. 1994, the Inks barn on Highland Forest caught on fire a second time, and this time it was destroyed. April 1995, Chris Wool was elected as chief of the fire department. Christian Wool was born in Syracuse in 1955 and grew up in North Syracuse. Chris graduated from North Syracuse High School in 1973. Chris joined Fabius in March of 1984. He made his home on Hills Road. In the private sector, Chris was an HVAC technician, was employed by Train in Hotchkiss and Jackal in Syracuse. Chris, through his many years as assistant chief and chief, implemented the use of computer systems at the fire station for record keeping. Of course, this was a bit crude by today's standards, but at the time, a DOS program with an 8-inch floppy was cutting-edge technology. 1996, received delivery of a new heavy rescue. The truck was manufactured by Rescue Master on a Freightliner FL70 chassis. The truck featured a 25 kW PTO-driven generator, a 6-bottle cascade system, an 18-foot walk-in crew area that had a command center. This is the first rescue truck that the fire district bought, as before this time the commissioners only purchased fire equipment. So that was a major change for us, because everything was always fire. Now they were buying some of our rescue stuff. April 1997, Ron Wheatley was elected chief of the fire department. One of his first accomplishments was to align the fire department schedule with a calendar year. In 2000, the fire department took delivery of a 2,000-gallon tanker on a Freightliner chassis. This tanker featured a stainless steel body, a 500-gallon per minute pump, 3 Newton quick dumps, and a complement of hose. This truck is set up so it can be used as a backup engine. The cost of the district for this tanker was $158,000. January 2001, Jean Firk became the first female chief of the Fabius Fire Department. Jean Firk was born in Forestport in 1957 and grew up on North Lake Road. Jean graduated from Adirondack Central School in 1976. Jean joined Fabius in August of 1987. She made her home on Virgil Road. In the private sector, Jean was employed by the Fabius Pompey School District as a custodian. She was married and divorced to Pete Firk and had one son, Jacob, and currently makes her home on a main street in the village. Jean agreed to run for chief, and has always been her desire to follow the lead of her grandfather, Harold Paul. Shortly after being in office, Jean became pregnant with Jacob and decided not to run for the position again. August 14, 2002. Early Sunday morning, the Fabius Fire Department was called to the Drummond House on Shackham Road for a reported fire. Ron Wheatley arrived to find the gate shut and the house fully involved. While putting out the fire, firemen began to notice evidence in the yard that indicated this was not an ordinary house fire. The body of Naomi Ann Drummond would later be found, and the details of the internet relationship turned homicide would take days to unfold. Thanks, Al. January 2003, Ron Wheatley becomes chief of the fire department. Ron Wheatley was born in Syracuse in 1963 and moved to and grew up on Chase Road. Ron graduated from Fabius in 1981. Ron transferred from Pompey Hill Fire Department, where he served 6 years, to Fabius in September 1992. He built his home on 1550 Ridge Road. In the private sector, Ron was a master electrician and employed by Syracuse, Merritt, Buckley, Mears, Cortland, and St. Joseph's Hospital. He's been married to his wife Julie since 1990. They have 2 children, Lance and Kevin. Ron has also served as the president and still vice president of the Southern Section Line Officers Association. He serves on the board of directors for the Onondaga County Fire Chiefs Association for many years. He has also served on the technical committee for the new radio system in Onondaga County. Ron was honored by the Southern Section Line Officers Association in 2009 and was awarded the prestigious Bill Barton Award. Ron also serves as deputy coordinator for Onondaga County Emergency Management from 2009 to present. February 3rd, 2003, through a grant from Senator Nancy Lorraine Hoffman, the department was able to purchase a thermal imaging camera. This new piece of equipment will help firefighters find lost victims as well as the seat of the fire and smoke-filled buildings. What we have here, this is what the camera looks like, and this is the image we see. And this is reading the heat signature off his body. So if it was a totally black, totally smoke-filled room, we would still see this picture. So if a patient is laying on the corner of a room, when we scan a room, we're going to pick up the heat signature. We can also use this for car accidents. If we get a roll over in the middle of the night and there's nobody around it for some reason, we can take this camera and we can actually shoot the seats and we can find out how many people were sitting in that car when a car wrecked. And then you can even scan the field. You can actually find people that may be hiding in the weeds and may want to be avoiding law enforcement officials for whatever reason. So it's a useful tool in many ways. 2004. A year in review, Shackham State Forest, we had 2 lost people, 1 car on fire, and 1 tree in the middle of nowhere on fire. We had a house fire on Route 91 in the village. In 2005, we started the year with a snowplow on fire on Ridge Road. We had quite a newsworthy fatal accident on Shackham Road. That was a teacher that decided to end it with a tree in his car. May 30th, an accident, car versus tractor right on here, Route 80. That was another one of our residents. Turned out very well. July 12th, we had a fully involved house fire on Keeney Road. October 7th, we had a fully involved abandoned house fire on Gardner Road. And with FEMA grant, we bought all new turnout gear. We also put into service 2 AEDs, automatic defibrillators. 2007, we had a car in no barn, some small finger cut off, dog bite to the face, chimney fire, and a payload fire. We had a unique one on July 25th. We had a sailboat fire by lightning. This was kind of funny because, you know, they moor sailboats out in the middle of the lake. And then we're firemen with all our gear on, and we got to try to get out to the boat. Well, there was a paddle boat there, and everybody's seen them at the little thing, so we thought we'd get in a paddle boat. Unfortunately, I got there, got the finger snake through. That's when my assistant chief Warren and sent me a guy to help me go out and paddle boat. So we go out this fire out because it's just burning in the water. He sends me his son-in-law, Rich Kadlubowski. I don't know if any of you know Rich Kadlubowski, but he's got to go 6'5", 300 pounds. And I'm no light guy, but paddle boat was like this. So needless to say, we didn't make very much progress getting the paddle boat. The only good thing about the whole call, nobody had a camera. Yeah. Where are we at? October 9th, 2007, Bryan Road Fire. This was a tremendous stop and everything went really well. On December 14th, we had a car pole that'll take a few years to top. We keep track of how long it takes to cut the patients out of these cars because the doctors need to know that when they get to the hospital. These 2 patients were talking to us. Obviously not injured very much, so it took us 1 hour and 58 minutes to cut the second person out of the car. We had 3 departments there with 3 separate hydraulic tools. And as you can see in this picture, this is the steering wheel, and this is the roof. And the roof is actually down around, people were still sitting in the car. And this roof came right down, pinned into the seat, down to their legs, and back up. And you couldn't move the seats, and they were just sandwiched between the seat and the pole. It's on its side, and that was like one of the most challenging extrications I've ever done, and probably will do for a long, long time. But that was right up by Harv's Milk, across the street from Harv's Milk Center. Yeah, I can only suffer a fractured wrist. March 17th, 2008. We had a shell house fire at 967 Toggenburg Road. The fire had a 3-hour head start and was in the smoldering stage upon arrival. TP5 rolled up short, with the driver and Rick Penoyer as the only crew member. Chief Ron Wheatley passed command to Assistant Chief Warren Virgil, so Ron could don his SCBA, which he carried in his truck. With Rick on the nozzle and Ron as the backup, the initial hit was made through the back door. As soon as Rick opened the nozzle, everyone on the first floor blew out from the heat and pressure of the stream. The house was a total loss and was later determined to have been caused by food left on the stove. 2009. Started off in Toggenburg. Just a point of information, we go to Toggenburg about 25 times a year. And we only go to Toggenburg for the most serious calls. If it's a broken arm, a minor broken leg, we don't even go. So they probably have 100 and some calls over there for transports. But we only do about 25 a year. It's really snowy. One year we did 33. January 1st, we started right off, and a skier had a 3-inch branch through his thigh. And they had to cut the branch off to get him down the hill. So that was kind of a newsworthy one for us. January 18th, we had a barn collapse, and if the patient didn't fall right next to the skid steer, we probably wouldn't be here today. The whole roof and snow road and everything right down around it. March 18th, we had a chimney fire on Keeney Road. It turned out very well because we got a new member out of it, and he also donated to us a concrete saw, because he saw we didn't have one. June 25th, we had our own small second floor fire back on Academy Street on the corner of 91. Went pretty well. September 12th, we had a car boat accident in Gooseville Corners. Now, there's a dispatch you don't hear in many districts. 1929, we put into service a Hearst tool that we purchased used from Pompey Hill. I'm sure Tom Brennan is still smiling, as he always wanted to have a hydraulic rescue tool on a heavy rescue, but could never afford one. Engine 18 was named for the Fabius Fire Department's county station number. It was built by Crimson Fire on a Spartan Metro Star chassis. This truck features a 1,750-gallon-a-minute pump, 1,000 gallons of water, and a 20-gallon foam tank. The pump panel is mounted inside the 6-man, 20-inch raised roof cab and is fully heated and air conditioned, which provides a safe environment for the pump operator in any weather condition. This truck cost us $421,123. Stainless steel body. 2010 was the year we went to Toggenburg 33 times. We had a basement fire on Route 91, which was contained in the room of origin. Basement fires are always a little scarier than other fires because you got to go down and get them. You never know what you're going into. May 30th, we had a car fire on Route 80. Bill Dehart was having a flashback because it turned out it was a 1957 Chevy Bel Air. July 21st, we had a storm come through and we had trees and wires down in 6 different locations. And on September 30th, another storm and flash flood came through and we ended up pumping 4 separate basements. In 2011, we had a fully involved car fire at Gooseville Corners. This was the second actual real fire that the new engine served in. Marching. The department has been marching for many years. In 1985, the department marched in what was called sports dress. In 2000, the department went to full dress uniforms. On special occasions, the Fabius firemen will break out the cowboy boots and red union suits and pull a hand pumper as in the old days. This proves to be a huge crowd favorite. The department also participates in several sports. The most well-known is water ball or push ball. The department has also tried their hand at sink-a-boat. Softball was well attended in the 50s through the 80s, but was disbanded in the 90s for many years. The Fireman Softball League was recently started back up, and of course, Fabius had a team. regards to training, the firemen are required to train once a week on many topics to keep their skills sharp when the siren blows. Over the years, Fabius has had several multi-agency move-ups. These are stage events to set up actual major events and run them if they're an actual call. That's a school bus accident they did down the school. And we had a simulated airplane crash up on Shankham Road. We actually gained 2 new members out of having drills like this. So. Recently, OSHA mandated that every interior structural firefighter be required to bail out of a multi-story building. In an effort to provide this training, the volunteers recently built this tower behind the station. By having the tower on site, it was easier to give special attention to firefighters that need it, as well as to complete the yearly proficiency test. Figured all you guys be wondering what that thing was back there, so that's what we do with it. Fabius Fire Department remains strong today. Each year we manage to gain 1 or 2 members. Each member is required to devote many hours of training. Current EMT curriculum is 140 hours, and a current firefighter is 120 hours. The tradition of family members is still alive, as this year Lance Wheatley completed his Firefighter 1 training. The department is currently has 12 emergency medical technicians, and Fabius also has 17 interior qualified firefighters. These numbers exceed most of the departments in our area. This is our fleet of 35 years ago, and this is our station as it looks today. This concludes our presentation. This has been a bit of work, but it's something we needed to be done. We have found many interesting facts that we did not know, and it's given us the desire to fill in the blanks that we do have. We'd be happy to answer any questions at this time.
Early on, you had one of the pieces of equipment and it said chemical thing. What kind of chemicals would they have used back then?
That confused me as well, and we're going to have to, because the picture that they had isn't actually what we consider a chemical. Chemical cart is what we call them. Around 1900 and 1910, they came up with a chemical cart that they had like baking soda in it. You fill the baking soda hopper, you put it in there, and then you spun a little drum and then pressurized the vessel and squirted water out. They're very short-lived. But for some reason, they were calling that truck a chemical pumper. I'm not sure why. I don't know if Bill or Pete can help me out there. But we're going to have to do some more research on that.
Well, basically, that Model D had, I believe, 2 chemical tanks on it, and that's exactly how it was set up, with baking soda and sulfuric acid. And you mix the soda in with the water, and when you got ready to pressurize the tanks, you tip the bottle of acid into the soda water mixture, and you have pressure, and you better have it heading toward the fire.
So that's the same thing we have on a hand tow behind, only they put it on a chassis then.
Exactly.
Oh, okay.
Bob Potter, longtime firefighter in chief and church man up in Cicero, had a Model T very similar to that one there. They had 2 chemical, that's why I say this one here, I believe, had 2 chemical tanks on it, if it was like the one Bob Potter had. And anyhow, I wish we had that baby right there today, because there's something to have, just like the hand cart. I mean, we're very fortunate to have the hand cart.
Yeah, very, very few fire departments that still have their old apparatus.
Exactly.
Because by the time they got time to replace it, there's like, oh, it's an old thing, we don't want it. Now they're all dying to get them back. Is there any other questions?
Yeah, how do you raise your money?
We raise the money through fire tax. That pays for most of our equipment and all of our gear. If you look on your property tax, there's a small line at $2.39 a thousand. It's fire tax. Through that, in the town of Fabius, they raised $246,000, I believe, is our annual budget, of which gets divided in half between the Fabius Fire Department and the Aquilia Fire Company. The money that we raise through donations, our casino nights, chicken barbecues and stuff like that, that buy stuff for the firemen in the firehouse. We were able to upgrade from BLS, basic life support, to ILS, intermediate life support. We had to have mannequin, defibrillators, and life packs. We did that in '95, and just to do that upgrade was probably $13,000 to $15,000. So all this stuff is quite expensive. We have to run the fire department right now, just like any of you that have to run your business. You know, we have to have all the policies, the sexual harassment, the right to know, the workplace violence, all these. Everybody's got to get the training every year. Anything you have to do for your current employer, we have to do for all the volunteers. So it's not where you can show up anymore and do the training, run the calls, and go home. I mean, I got stacks and stacks of records I have to keep, and it's just like a business now.
John, I got a few things that just explain to you folks the connection between the Fabius Fire Department and the Peoria Fire Department and what you share or don't share. Explain to us a little bit about when we have an emergency, we're going to call 911. Do they determine whether to call you? You folks are always so ready to help everyone. Just touch on those two, and then I got a couple of other thoughts I want you to explain.
The Fabius Fire District encompasses the entire town of Fabius. Back in Mr. Farwell's day, what they did is they split it up, and they called it west and east. The line currently is Hurley Road. So anything west of Hurley Road is the Peoria Fire Company's district, and anything east is ours. It's roughly a 3/4 split. I think the reason they did this back in the 40s was the Peoria station was growing at such a rate that it looked like it was going to be another village or another hamlet or something. So they felt they needed more fire protection right in the hamlet of Peoria station. Geographically, the Fabius Fire Station is in the center of the town. So that, if there was to be one station, it would be there. As far as getting a response from the fire station, we have that enhanced 911 system. So as soon as you call into the 911 system, they see what phone you're calling from. They know your address. And they're going to ask you a bunch of questions. And you're going to get frustrated because you just want them to send the fire department. Well, as soon as this is 911, do you have an emergency? Yes, I have an emergency. She starts typing. As soon as she starts typing, over on another side of the room, there's a dispatcher. And this little bell goes off, ding, EMS call Fabius. So as soon as she's saying, what's your address? She's already toning out our tones. Our pagers will start activating, the siren will activate. We have technology now where many of us are getting our calls as a text message on our phones. We get the text message and then we need to respond. The 3 chiefs will respond to the scene. So we'll go, Warren lives over on Virgil Road, Rick and I live on Ridge Road. So we'll be driving right from there to the scene. Depending, and as we're driving, they'll give us continual updates. Caller now states this, caller now states that. So we'll get all these updates while we're going there. So she's still talking to you on the phone. You're still frustrated because you don't think she sent the fireman yet, but we're halfway there. And she'll try to keep you on the phone until you say, oh, the fireman's here. And that's to help us if we drive by the house or whatnot. In the meantime, the rest of the volunteers, they're getting up, getting dressed, they're driving to the fire station, and on a winter's night, it's going to take them a couple of minutes. We're very, very fortunate because we have a tremendous amount of members that live right in the village. So we can usually get a truck out. If we don't get a truck out within 5 minutes, they're going to tone us out again, but we don't get second tone outs. And so we're very fortunate that way. And as they're coming to the scene, if the chiefs have pulled up, we'll usually pull up, pull past, and pull back to try to get 3 sides of the house if it's a fire. And we'll give the truck all the updates they need. So by the time the fire truck gets there, they know exactly where they're going to park, what they're going to do. The officers in the back of the truck are already divvying up jobs. They're saying, okay, you're going to grab the backboard, you're going to grab the O2 cage, you're going to grab this. So when we come off the truck, we know what everybody's going to do.
Great.
I don't know if that answers all your
Wow,
questions as far
that's
as your
super.
response.
Now, if we need an ambulance, I know some departments have their own. What do we use?
Fabius, the town of Fabius, many, many years ago, made an agreement with Smith Ambulance out of DeRuyter, a private ambulance carrier. He provides all the ambulance service for the Fabius Fire Department's district. Tully ambulance covers the west because we're geographically closer. The whole key is trying to get the best care to the patient as fast as we can. And years ago, when the town developed this agreement with Smith, Tully didn't have a paid staff. They didn't have the ambulances there, so they weren't dependent. Now they are. So now we can start bringing them slowly across the town to provide quicker coverage to the residents on that side of the town. The fire department, we're ILS, we've got 12 EMTs, so we're going to initialize care. We're going to get a baseline set of vitals, and quite often 2-3 sets of vitals. So by getting 2-3 sets of vitals after every 5 minutes, when Smith gets on the scene, he can see whether the patient is degrading, stabilized, or getting better. A lot of times, if we just talk to you and calm you down and take some of the anxiety out of it, the patients get better pretty quickly. Sometimes in the wintertime, no fault of Smith ambulance, but if you're going to drive from DeRuyter to here, and one of them blowing snow at nights when you can't see, it takes 20 minutes, 25 minutes to get here. So that's the biggest service that the fire department provides, is that initial care for that 20-minute wait for the ambulance.
And just for information's sake for some of these folks, what's it like on a real bad winter morning, or even a beautiful sunshine morning, when you've only got 3 of the 40 people that are volunteers that might be here? What happens then?
As I was explaining earlier, back in probably the 70s, 60s, 70s, we had a lot of industry in Syracuse. With a lot of industry comes shift work. So we had a lot of guys working 2nd, 3rd shift. So during the day, you'd have guys around. Industry's pretty much gone out of Syracuse, and everybody's working a lot of day jobs. We have very few people around during the day. Those that we do are hit or miss, and some of them are older and retired, which make great operators. I don't have any trouble at all getting an operator out during the day. I have Bill Dehart, I have Bob Bumpus, several gentlemen around the area. They'll come down and drive the trucks. Where we fall a bit short is EMTs. I have a great asset, Warren Virgil, the highway superintendent. He's an EMT, so he's in the district a lot. My wife Julie's usually in the district. Danielle, she's a state trooper by trade, and she's usually has an off schedule, so she's always hit or miss. But fortunately, we always manage to get at least 2 interiors out, or 2 EMTs out. We never have to scratch, and we've been doing very well. More by getting lucky than by having staff people there. In the event that we can't get the people out, if fire control doesn't hear anything from us in 5 minutes, they're going to retone our tones and tone out the next nearest fire department. So if we're way over that way, it might be Delphi. If we're way over that way, it'll be Tully or Apulia. They're going to tone them out within the 5 minutes. We can still call, we can still respond. In the meantime, usually we always have one with Warren here all the time during the day. Warren's always going, and once he gets on there, if it's a house fire or a car accident, he does a quick size up. He gets right on his radio, and he gets any additional resources that he needs. So if it looks like a minor accident, he knows he's got, whenever our trucks call out, they always call out, we got 2 EMTs on the truck or 2 interiors on the truck, so he knows exactly what he has. So there's really not a lot of delay because it will be all the steps we have in place.
Great. We just hope that some of those were helpful questions and answers.
Yeah, we're kind of like a little entity over in the corner that nobody knows a lot about, and until the bell rings, and all of a sudden we're all in our living room or something, and then they're like, oh, where'd all these guys come from? But anytime, we drill on Tuesday nights, 7:30, anytime anybody wants to swing by and look through the trucks and look through the station, ask questions, ask any more questions tonight, feel free. Hey, it's all your tax dollars that bought all that stuff. We're just providing the labor for it. So.
Well, and I just, 90% of people in here know each other and know the department, and we're just so thankful that you were able to put it together and take it so far back so that we've got it for historical purposes as well as for your own fire department. And I know that many of your men and women are not here tonight, but from a personal point of view, when you need to call them, they respond. And it's been, just, I think the anxiety itself is just at a different level when you know that they are on their way, and when they pull in and they're actually there, it's a saving grace for all of us. So I know you're still looking for volunteers. There isn't a fire department that I have not witnessed across this county, let alone surrounding counties that don't need volunteers of every kind. And it just behooves us to keep passing that information on, and we would invite those that are here to please stand up that are a part of the auxiliary, part of the fire department, that have been there, done that, are retired. And I'd like you to, for those of you that might not know who he is, Bill Dehart. Stand up, Bill. I think Bill's the one and only who's the oldest for the go-to guy. So it's kind of neat that he's there. But all of you just stand up. Just raise your hand or something so that we know.
Go ahead, stand up.
What we've got. We're definitely indebted, and we're just so grateful to know that we can use you if we have to. We pray that we don't. Anyone else have any comments or any input they'd like to share? Because the auxiliary, in my opinion, is a huge asset in these fire departments. I know there are several times when they provide services that we don't even think about or know about. So support them when you can. Buy a chicken, spin a wheel, whatever you gotta do. Let's keep these fire departments working, because they're all volunteers. I don't think the pay is tremendous, is it?
I don't see it yet.
And it pretty much,
A lot of zeros.
a lot of zeros.
When I was telling somebody earlier too, I think it helps being a firefighter in Fabius as opposed to some of these other towns. We do right around 140 calls a year, and most of our calls are what we call real calls. You know, we don't get a lot of fire alarm activations, we don't get a lot of nuisance calls. And when we go there, we're usually going to somebody that's in need, and it's usually somebody we know.
Yeah.
And so when you're going out there and you're helping somebody you know, yeah, you don't mind getting up at 2 in the morning and getting tired all the next day or whatever. But if I was going out there, I think some of these people, Liverpool does 3,000 calls a year. And they probably do 1,000 alarm activations where they get up, go, turn around, and go back home. People they never see, people they don't know. And I don't know if I would still be putting this kind of effort into it if I wasn't helping out the community.
And there's a lot to be said about that, I think, for sure. So we're again, very thankful and grateful. Yes, sir.
Sir,
Now, go back to the first two pictures.
that would be Danielle. She's my technical advisor.
There's some story with, there's funny stories, good stories, all positive, with the hand pumper. Bill, when did that get made over, changed over from sitting out in the back barn? You know what year that was?
Well, for quite a while, it was over in a Peoria old barn there next to the Peoria Grill. And Dick Hurley, he rescued the thing, and it kind of sat in the mud. And a couple of the wheels were not totally destroyed, but they were deteriorating from setting in the mud. And that's why Dick was instrumental in rescuing that old hand car. And I believe it was about, I'm going to say in the middle of 1970, a group of us, along with, well, John Zare was a member of the department at the time. Pete Firk was another one. We decided to refurbish the thing, as you see it today. There were no, they call them brakes, the handles that the firemen used to pump with. There were no handles on it. They were gone. In fact, I think You were in some of
That's what I was gonna add. I was a member of the fire department when that was being rebuilt. As a farmer, I was always here, and I did want a few calls and so on. But, went to the meeting one night, and, they were rebuilding this hand pumper, and they asked if maybe I could take some 4x4s to Adirondack Bat from Dolgeville. I said, yeah. A few days later, I did take them to Dolgeville. Got over to Morrisville, I had a flat tire on my pickup truck with these 8 pieces of timber in. 1 o'clock in the afternoon, flat tire, no big deal. Took the flat tire off, rolled it up the street, rolled it into Morrisville Motors, and Dick June says, "What are you doing here?" And I said, "I got a flat tire, I got a little problem. I gotta go up to Dolgeville." So Dick took care of the flat tire. I put it back on the truck. I proceeded to go to Dolgeville with 8 pieces of 4x4. And the reason they sent 8 pieces, we wanted to make sure they got the straightest 2 to put in there when they got all done. Took them to Adirondack Bat, they put them through the dowel machine, and picked up the best 2 to put in it when we got back. Quite a little story there, getting them up there and getting them back, and that was the only place they could get those run down. What are they, 12 foot, Bill? Something like that? 12 foot long or so?
They're a good 10 feet, I mean, at least 10. 'Cause it's made for 7 guys on it, and 7 guys on side. And it's crowded. But I'll tell you what, when you get pumping that, once that thing's going up and down, if you ever fall off, I don't know what it is, you can't get back on. I mean, you break your knuckles 3-4 times, and it's going, they think of, probably get some girl there who knows how to jump rope, she could probably get right back on there again. But I'll tell you what, you put us old firemen up there, we can't get back on that thing.
Quite an experience at the bat company. I come home with a half a dozen bats. I got to see a lot of great bats made. I may still have a couple of those bats in the Red Barn for all I know. But, brought back some bats. I was impressed with the work they did, and that's how that came to be for the hand pumper.
Yeah, we got a picture of, we believe it's John in his shop down there in the corner refinishing that, because it's hard to recognize, so the guy in the picture's got some more hair than.
Boy, Stevie too.
Well, we do have that picture, Danielle was just trying to find it, but we might not
Yeah, I
have
think
scanned that
I
in.
kind of lost
But we
it
do have a
last
picture of
year,
you from
but
back then.
we still have it, just put it back in.
And we actually, you know, the fire department is a lot on tradition, and we actually tried to incorporate that into the new truck, and so the picture she just had there was the door of the new engine. And that has the hand pump right in there, so you got the old tradition with the new pumper, kind of tie it together. Any other questions?
The first picture that shows the firehouse by the Baptist church or Christian church now, I'm sure everybody's picked up on that. Most people in here realize it.
Go back to
See
slideshow.
the other one?
Go to the slideshow. Look at it.
The one with the church district?
Model T for you.
That one there are,
Yeah. Jim tells me that there was a jail upstairs. He wasn't in the era, so they didn't put him in there.
well, rumor has it the cells were made out of 2x4, so it probably wouldn't have held Jimmy back in his day anyway.
There was also a card place upstairs.
Oh, yeah?
Is that right in the yard of the church?
Where the parking lot is now.
It was a great place, and Halloween,
House was already there.
run in there and shut the lights off, and the guy playing cards upstairs.
How old were you when you were doing that?
8 or 9.
8 or 9?
If you want to really-
Right side in the picture,
Tony's
What's that?
trailer chased us around town.
who was it?
We,
What was the question?
Right side on the,
Towards church?
yeah, staying on the one.
Bill Farrell.
Oh, Bill Farrell.
Yeah, it's funny when you read some of those names of the officers over the years, it's the very same names we have in town today, so I mean.
Yeah.
guys got published too in their underwear.
Yeah, we had that picture in one of the slides. It was a newspaper article.
No, they were in the book, there was a, when they had the county convention in Skinny Atlas, and they did a book about Skinny Atlas, and they were doing. Oh, my God, it was
That's
published.
probably a newspaper article with that article we got, with the Tony and Upper White Hands.
That's when you,
Yeah. I guess one here was a newspaper. Looks like Jimmy Abbott there, right?
Yes.
Jimmy
Oh,
Abbott.
yeah, the Jack.
Looks like Walt
Walt
Randall.
Randall.
Not sure who that is. But that's a lot of fun. Luckily I'm chief.
Ron,
Not
can you
the
talk
chief, yeah.
about the calls coming in years back and where it's at now? We used to call Shay's store one time, they answered the phone in the back. I called Charlie one day and told him I had a truck on fire up there, and they came to pick up a cow. He said, "Now, you sure it's on fire, or is this a joke?" They used to call Shay's and play some games, but, yeah, I said the truck is on fire. Shortly after that, you got your own number and things. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Every year I do the numbers and I look at how many calls we do. I haven't gone back and down. Ever since I've been chief, I know, we started out at 120. The highest year I've ever had since I've been chief is 183. And at that time, Delphi Falls was suffering on a little manpower shortage, so we were running all the calls with them, so we about 40 additional calls down to Delphi Falls. But we're usually running right around 140 a year. 58% of them are during the daytime, which is 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. 54% are strictly EMS in nature, house calls. And fires, we do very, very few fires. I'd like to credit Rich Wilbur with his fire prevention program down to the school for that, but
Just jinxed it.
but I think in the older days, we had much older houses, a lot of people heating with wood. We were more prone to having house fires. With the modern building codes and the sheetrock and everything we have going on, and most people are on oil. With the advent of coal, I think we've seen our chimney fires go down since everybody started burning coal again, as opposed to burning the wood like they used to. So we do very few fires, I say that, but if we do one every other year of our own fire, that's probably a lot. I don't know how
Charlie
many.
Shay would say more than once that they used to use the bell at the Methodist church. And Mrs., can't remember her
Sarah
name.
Comstock.
She would come over and ring the bell, and when she pulled the ropes, it would pick her right off the ground. Charlie walked in on her one day, and she was yanking that thing up and down, and it was lifting her right up, she said.
Yeah, after that, they went to the fire phone deal, and there was like 4 fire phones, I believe, in the town. Billy, is that just before you,
One of the beer trail, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, there was what they call a fire phone, and I forget what the number was at that time, but if you dial that number, it would ring all of these fire phones. One was stationed at the bus garage, one was stationed at Charlie Shay's store, one was over at Tom Brennan's house, and I had one on the tail end of the phone service. Seems to me there was another one.
There was one in the back of the grill on the phone.
Where?
Biggest grill.
Yeah, Art and M's Bar and Grill, there was a fire phone also. But
what
anyhow,
was the name of it?
pardon?
Art Hemp was the name of it?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was before Brown Bear. But anyhow, if you picked up the phone and it was an alarm of fire, or in later years, we got into the EMS program, but you also had a lever there that had a wire all the way down to the firehouse. You trip the lever on the wall, and that activated the siren. Well, then they, from that program, they built what they call a phone tree. Whoever took the call would call somebody, and then they had a list of 5 or 6 firefighters that they would call. And in the meantime, why, you know, it would just spread like wildfire.
Would you sit there and make the calls, or would you make Helen do it while you were in the firehouse?
Yeah, actually, that's the way to do it. That was our way of notifying members of the fire department of an alarm before they come out with the plectrons. And that was a big shot in the arm because you get the tone on the plectron, and you'd also get a voice message what the alarm was about.
And that was like 1973, somewhere in there, right?
Right. But they've come a long ways here, just in the recent past, really. But yeah, they started out with the church bell. I don't remember that, but
Young.
right.
More questions?
Great program.
Glad we could do it. Thank you.